Now, as women have been shattering glass ceilings in law and finance, yet many others find themselves challenged by a lack of mentorship, biases, and sexism. These difficulties can make it challenging for women to rise up through the ranks to partner roles. Learn from our upcoming panel of successful women who have been there and done that, as they discuss the importance of mentorship and how to turn a good career into an excellent one. The next panelist, Natasha Harris, CEO of Victory Finances, LLC, Dr. Jessica Gruendler, CEO of Clinical Project Resource, LLC, Judy Lawrence, founder and owner of Lawrence Institute for Notaries, Shireen Eddleblute, Director of ESG Research, Co-Portfolio Manager and Chief Diversity Officer at Newday Impact Investing. They will shed light on the topic from associate to equality partner, women shattering the glass ceiling in law and finance. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Is this good? So first, I'd like to start with an introduction and a little bit of background from our amazing women up here. So we'll start with Dr. Jessica.
Hello, my name is Jessica Gruendler. I am the CEO and founder of Clinical Project Resource. I am a nurse of 40 years, and I use the hashtag not just a nurse because I'm currently a senior director of nursing for Dignity Health in the San Francisco area. And I also have my own consulting business, which consults with vendor partners to help them understand the healthcare world, whether it's in the office, physician's office, or in the hospital world. And I also do legal nurse consulting. So I'm working with attorneys to review medical records and work as an expert witness or anything else they may need clinical input into.
Awesome. Thank you, Dr. Jessica. And Judy?
I don't know if I can follow all that.
Yeah, you can.
My name is Judy Lawrence. I am the owner of Apostille VIP. I also have two other companies, the Lawrence Institute for Notaries and Center City Notary and Apostille. I teach notaries, and I also add Gelb, where I can't see for the light, and I have a company where, and that's what I really want to talk about, we have a membership subscription so that we can help people be able to obtain apostilles easily and with less problems and with less rejections, and so we're really excited about that today.
I think I got this. All right. Hi, everyone. I'm Shireen Eddleblute. I am the Director of ESG Research. I'm a co-portfolio manager, and I'm also the Chief Diversity Officer at Newday Impact. Newday Impact is a financial services asset management company that focuses on 7 thematic portfolios that address some of the world's largest and biggest issues that are impacting our world today. And I'm happy to be on this panel. But I guess I should tell you, I also have 20 years of experience at other asset management companies, but this is a startup, and so I'm excited to try something different here. So.
Awesome. I love that. So yes, as before, I'm Natasha Harris. I own a boutique tax and accounting firm that serves our underserved and underrepresented community in financial education between tax, accounting, and growing their business. So let's kick this off with some of the challenges you've experienced due to the lack of mentorship in your lanes you operate.
Sure. So there's not a lot of leadership mentorship in nursing school. To be a successful nurse executive, you need to know the clinical, operational, and financial aspects of healthcare. And the way I learned that was to leave the nursing world and enter the corporate world. And I was the nurse on a sales team and the vice president of sales for a company called Surgical Information Systems out of Alpharetta, Georgia. Taught me really the financial aspects of hospital management. And the way I learned that was doing return on investment strategies for hospitals who were implementing software. One of the other lacking opportunities for women in healthcare and to shatter that glass ceiling is 90% of us are women. Most of the roles that we are expected to move into are chief nursing officers. If you want to be a chief operating officer, a chief financial officer, or a CEO, there is that glass ceiling to go through. One of the obstacles that I have had to deal with is understanding that because I've been an operating room nurse most of my life, if you've ever had surgery or your family members ever had surgery, you want an assertive, borderline aggressive nurse in the room to make sure everything goes perfectly. Unfortunately, that doesn't translate well out into the political world of nursing executives where I have to mind my P's and Q's. So when I realized that I'm not going to call it a borderline personality, but my assertive, borderline aggressive personality from my years of experience couldn't translate into the executive world because I just can't keep my mouth shut if I'm passionate, which makes me a great legal nurse consultant when I'm fighting for your team, that I had to create my own company. And so I'm still working full-time in the healthcare world until I can get my new company off the ground because I just don't fit in their box anymore.
I love that. So yes, I like to call that not being designed for a boss, so that assertive and aggressiveness does turn into a lot of situations where you are fired. And that is something I've experienced because I did not keep my mouth shut or stood for something that, there's fairness and, equity, equality across the board. If that's my treatment, it should be done here as well. And yeah, that led to me creating my own company as a result of that and having the challenge of being a mother through that as well. So, Judy, what about your challenges with mentorship?
My challenges were a little different. I had the same job, I worked for the same law firm in many capacities. I was a secretary, I was a paralegal, I was the office administrator, I was the one that they counted on for everything, whatever time it was, whatever day it was, until one day when they took many of us who were higher priced people and said, we don't need you anymore. And you just asked me this morning. She said, how long did it take you? And I said, well, I cried for 6 months. And then I made up my mind that I had to reinvent myself. Mm-hmm. And I had to become something different. And I was lucky. If you knew me for those 6 months, the only topic of conversation that I really could have with anyone was what I saw on television, because I didn't do anything. I just didn't. And I guess there's a grieving period or something when that happens to you. And most of what I did my adult life, I thought I'd continue to do. Long story short, 8.5 years later, I have 3 companies. I've written 2 books. I have many, I have a magnificent, wonderful team of people that we mentor each other, we help each other, and I now believe that some of the things that you think are the worst thing that ever happened to you turn out to be the really best thing that ever happened to you.
Absolutely, that's good. Mm-hmm. Sharina, what about you with mentorship through what you've been through?
I feel like I'm a part of the statistic of the women that are in finance. So, if you look at, just to put perspective to this, if you look at the overall population in the U.S., 51% of women are a part of the population. So that means we outnumber men, right? So you look at the U.S. labor force, 47% of women, they are leading the workforce. 40% of women are the sole or primary financial contributors to their families for families that have children under the age of 18, right? But if you look at the industry of the finance, there's not very many women. And I'm actually one of the numbers, the statistics that bring the number, albeit very low, but I bring that number to at least a number that we can look forward to hopefully grow. And so when you look at like the industry for senior leaders in finance, it's 13%. But if you look at the the breakdown of men and women in the financial industry, it's almost gender parity. So why are women able to enter the financial industry, but they just can't get the senior roles? And so I think that is the big dilemma here. I've been fortunate to break that, but there's so much more work to be done. So I would love to be the mentor for those women.
I love that. So in mentioning the industry being so populated with men, for a second, if you're a woman in finance, please stand up.
Yeah.
I repeat, if you're a woman in finance, please stand up.
Yeah.
Let's give her a hand, guys, because it's tough.
How about in the field of law?
Right, say that again.
Law.
Okay. If you're a woman in law, please stand up. Give them a hand, guys.
Yes, good job.
So I saw one because of these lights in finance, and what is that, 4 in law?
Yeah, well, and that's actually a good point to bring up, because if you look at finance compared to medicine or law, like if you look at the college enrollment, it's almost parity for law school, med school. 36% of doctors are women, 37% of lawyers are women. Guess how many percent of finance senior leaders are women? 6.
Yeah.
6%.
Yeah.
So
And
we have a long ways to go.
yeah, but it's progressing. That's the
It is. It's
important
growing,
thing.
for sure.
So some of the statistics say that there are very few women that also pursue MBAs and those higher degrees in that area, and I could see how it could attest to some of the motherhood gap that we may experience as well. I know during my course of pursuing my MBA, I was pregnant with twins, but I was also in financial services, and in that experience, I had one of their top senior leaders tell me that having my twins was the worst decision I could have made professionally. So have any of you experienced, I know it's shocker, like I was floored when he said that. I was like, who are you to tell me? Anyway, have any of you experienced that similar sexism discrimination in a motherhood capacity?
I don't know if it's exactly sexism what happened to me, but I was in my early 50s and I couldn't get a job. And I had a background of years of understanding a law firm. I ran one. I did all kinds of things. And I couldn't get a job because they didn't want somebody, a woman, and a woman of 50, and basically they think that if they hire a 25-year-old, that 25-year-old is going to give them longevity. That is not true. The 25-year-old will change jobs in 1 minute if they get a better offer. The older person, the more mature person, won't go anywhere unless they're forced to go. I mean, if you find a good home, I have to tell you, owning my own business is the most thrilling, wonderful thing I have ever done, and I thank goodness, I thank God every day for what I do. But think about this for a minute. If I had been able to get a job, I probably never would have done it. I probably would have been stuck in that same rut that I was in for all those years, and I may not know the difference. But what I'm trying to say, in a long-winded way, is they shouldn't not hire you for your age or because you're a woman. They should pick the most qualified person, and that is not what they do. Mm-hmm. That's just not what they do. I had everybody say to me, "Oh, look at your resume. Oh my goodness, you will be the best. You'll be able to help. That you can run this place. You can do it." And then the next day I would get that letter. Really sorry, but we've gone in a different direction. And I found out later on that they mark your resumes with a T-O, too old.
Oh, no.
I did. I found that out. And
I'm going to defer to you two because I am childless by choice and have never had to face the discrimination of
I don't
children.
have
So
children either.
So I had an interesting story. So my career was going this way, my husband's career was going this way, and we were like, we had 2 little boys, one who's sitting here, who's a finance major, who is my +1 for this event. And, being in the finance industry, it's a tough work balance. life and work balance. And so I just was like, I'm done. I want to be with my kids. My mother was getting older and needed some help health-wise, and I gave it all up. And so much of who I was, what my identity was really directed to my career. So it was a big adjustment. But I say it was the best decision of my life. I not only got to be with my boys on a daily basis by leaving the paid workforce, I got to help with philanthropy and volunteerism with causes that were always near and dear to my heart, but I just never had the time to do it. So it was great. And for me to get back into the workforce after taking a sabbatical, almost a decade off, a former colleague of mine. And so this is a thing that, former guy that I used to work with for almost 8 years at the Royal Bank of Canada was like, what are you doing these days? And I was like, it's so funny that you ask, because I'm launching my youngest to college and I'm thinking about reinventing myself. And so he was like, why don't you join me at this company called Newday Impact, where, we're kind of bridging like philanthropy and investments all in one. And I was on board because we're trying to help solve some of the world's problems by, combating climate action or diversity, equity, inclusion, or ocean health. And we're partnering with nonprofits that are also doing like boots on the ground advocacy work. And so we donate 5% of our revenues from those respective portfolios to those NGOs. And it just was perfect, because it was like marrying my former investment life to my work like with nonprofits. So I was like, sign me up. When can I start?
I love that. I have an audience question. How many of you men have had to make the decision on whether or not you had to sacrifice your career or tend to your family? Please raise your hands. I see one.
I can't see.
Two. It's a tough choice. And I feel like it's predominantly done by women over men, because it's, probably 50-something people in here. Two men raise their hand on that. So it is a challenge.
Did you give up your careers completely, or just curious?
Just choices, like I can't do that job because you're upset that I'll be away so long, we're not going to manage this issue or whatever, so I'm going to turn it down.
Okay. But you didn't, fully leave it, okay.
Gotcha. That's awesome. So 2 of you have mentioned having to reinvent yourself. Do you think that helped bring you up to the top on that journey of having to reinvent yourself?
Oh, definitely. You can see it from 2 different perspectives. And I think that the best thing is I always try to look at my clients and see things from their perspective. I don't take it for granted that everybody is who they say they are. And I kind of think that it gave me, I also credit, I spent a long time in a law firm, and you learn a lot. So that was helpful too. But mentally, I think that I was always an empathetic person, and I think that I still am. I got over it. And then I said, I'm going to be so successful, and I am going to do this. And then there was an element of luck. That's a fact, everything. Like you were lucky. Like this guy said, come join me. So there's always an element of luck involved.
I think, I know that reinventing myself made a huge impact on my career. So, as I said, when I transitioned from being a staff nurse in an operating room or a director of surgery into a director role outside of surgical services, where I had to engage in more of an interdisciplinary or collaborative way with people, I truly had to change my communication style. I had to change the look on my face, and I had to change the tone of my eyes because I needed to learn to collaborate in a less direct and more communicative way to be able to bring stakeholders into what I was doing, which was trying to improve quality. And I actually had my CNO come to me one day, and she said, Jessica, you're just too direct, you're too blunt. If you want people to help you, you need to learn how to do this. Well, I did. And believe it or not, about a week later, I was, speaking of reinventing myself in my 50s, I worked with my sister, who I rediscovered after 40 years, and participated in my first beauty pageant. So, beauty pageant story. I was prepping for an interview for Mrs. California, and somebody said, Jessica, you look so serious when you talk, but when you smile, your whole face lights up. So I started practicing in the middle of executive meetings, and when I felt myself getting frustrated or feeling pushed back, I would just say to myself, world peace. And I know that seems stupid, but it made me smile, it made my eyes light up, and it changed the tone of my voice. And within 6 months, my CNO came to me and she said, I don't know what you did, but people have really noticed the change. I got a 25% increase in my salary. And 3 years later, she called me and asked me to be the Senior Director of Nursing in San Francisco for Dignity Health. So reinventing myself and changing my communication style really skyrocketed my career.
That's awesome. I love that. So Tyra Banks says you gotta smile with your eyes. So you gotta smize sometimes. So I love that. I did a beauty pageant way back when, but so that's awesome. I love it. What about your reinventing?
Beauty pageants for me. But,
We talked about that.
yeah, no. I think anytime you have multiple experiences that you can add to a role, I mean, that's so important. We talk, diversity is such a big buzzword these days, but it's not just diversity by gender lens or ethnicity or race, but it's also diversity of thought, right? And you gain so many more experiences and thoughts and opinions and knowledge by all the different things you're a part of, whether that's me taking a decade off to be at home with my children, or whether it's somebody starting a new career and learning it and exposing yourself, networking with new folks. It's, you know, I think anytime that you're doing that, you're adding more value to yourself and to the role that you're going to be in.
I think another thing that you do realize when you reinvent yourself is you're not going to be asking people to do things that you won't do. You know, you're not going to be asking people to stay late or do things that I may have said this before. This is my third time up here on this stage today, so if I said it and I repeated it, I apologize. But
Don't apologize.
you're not going to ask people to do things that you won't do. You know, you're not going to, you know, sit home or go on 1,000 trips a year and ask people to work hard for you. They have to see you're willing to work hard. And when they see you as a leader are willing to be out there working hard, whether it's working hard to get shareholders or supporters or people, when they see that, or at least this is how it's been for me, they really want to jump in and help you. They say, well, okay, I'll do it, you know, and I think that's an important thing. I think women do that better than men.
There are quite a few things women do better than men. No offense, man.
Yeah, we don't want this to be a male bashing ceremony, but
No, so I think some of the reinventing may have been a result of having to fit in a sense of being one of the boys, and I put that in air quotes. Have any of you experienced that along that journey in that male-dominant atmosphere, having to adapt to that presence, which, in a sense, dumbed you down a little bit?
I don't think it had ever dumbed me down. I am very fortunate in stature. I'm 6 foot tall, and I have the shoulders of a linebacker. And so I don't think I'm seen as a petite woman would be seen. Sorry.
Petite is still good, Judith.
So that helps me a little. But when we were talking about this before, one of the things that I said is in a male-dominated work society, especially when you're talking about going from a entry-level position to a partner or executive level position, what do you have to do to get there? And one of the things I was noticing even here is there's two booths out there that support women and empower women, one in general and one specifically physician-driven. There's no booths out there for men to get empowerment, so I truly don't understand the difference, because I'll go out and play golf, and I'll go out, well, used to go out and drink with the boys. So, if I didn't ever feel like I needed to do that. I wanted to do it because it was fun. So I've had kind of a different experience, but I really don't understand wow, somebody understands. I really think it's interesting that women feel the need to be so supported and able to reach their fullest potential, and in men it seems to be innate, or they just fake it till they make it.
I have to defend my being short.
We said
Okay?
petite. We said
I'm just going to
petite.
take this one moment to defend my being short. I'm small, but I am a powerhouse.
Absolutely.
And let me just say, I'm nice, I'm sweet, I'm fun. I like to go out and drink with the boys, and I like to do a lot of fun things. But let me tell you, where my family and my friends and my business are concerned, don't mess with me. I'm short. Give me a hand.
Give her a hand. Give her a hand.
That's funny.
I love her.
I love that. I love that.
Oh, goodness. Well, I'm short too.
She's short too. Give her a hand.
I'm short too. Yeah, I mean, we might be
Petite is
small.
sweet.
Yes, we might be small, but we are mighty, right?
We are.
But no, I have never really been a girly girl. So I became more feminine, I feel like, after I had my boys, because I'm surrounded by, male testosterone. So, got to bring out that femininity in me. But I do think you made a great point, because, if you look at job applications, men, fake it till you make it, men might have 6 of the qualifications out of the 10, but they're going to apply for that job. Women might have 8 out of the 10, but because they don't have the 2, they're not going to apply for that job. And so I think there are some differences in how we approach life, how we approach things like that. So.
And I think it really helps to have presence. You have presence.
Thank you.
When you walked in the breakfast area this morning and I started talking to you, people just have presence, whether it's self-confidence, whether it's the way they dress, whether it's the skills they've developed. I think women need to learn how to have that presence. And I hate to it's not even stereotyping. You have to dress the part. You have to make up the part or not make up the part. You have to hair the part. You have to shoe the part. You have to do the part. Yes. If a man walks in the room and he has presence, it's because of the suit he has on, the shoes he has on, and just the way he carries himself. And I think women need to work on having a presence if they want to succeed at an executive level.
Okay, I'm going to say one thing. I agree with you 1,000%, but this comes, having presence, and I think you'll agree with me, comes from just liking people. You just have to like people. There is so much non-liking going on in this world. And I don't know if there's a phrase called non-liking or what, but you just have to like people and talk to them, and you will find everyone has this quality that you didn't know they had. Like we got to talking this morning, and now I think there's not enough. Women can do it better than men. Women will go seek out other women. I think they do that better than men. But in general, everybody should just like each other a little bit more. You said I have presence? I love people. I do. And my clients come in. I shouldn't even tell you this, but I will anyway. Sometimes my clients come in and they have dyed their hair green or purple, and I say to them, "Oh, your hair is spectacular." And the woman that works for me goes, "Oh my God, here she goes." But you know what? That makes them feel good. And it makes them feel like I like them, and I do. And I think we need more of that in this world. I think There's a lot of hatred out there, and I hope it goes away. I want to see it go away.
I think you said something so powerful when you said, regardless of you being short, I am a powerhouse. And as women, instilling that in us, right? Because I feel like we bury ourselves behind being a wife, being a mom, just having that serving heart in others, that sometimes we neglect ourselves in a way that we don't unleash our inner powerhouse, our inner badass, right? They said in marketing earlier, she said, I'm a badass.
We had to stand up and say it.
Yeah, so even behind the scenes, how many of you guys are married? Men specifically, so you have a wife. So low-key, she runs the house, right? He says no. He's like the exception to the rule. Okay, but it's a collective thing, but if you did not have her, things would go sideways. So, same applies across industries. We are a necessity, just as you are a necessity. So we are a powerhouse, regardless of where we're at, to develop that presence. But yes, our mentorship needs to be from powerhouse and badass women along the way, which is part of our challenge. A lot of my mentors right now are men. So as much as I'm seeking the mentorship for a badass woman, it turns out I might just have to be that badass woman for somebody else. Do you guys feel that same journey, along your journey?
Yeah, I think, especially when you're in a male-dominated industry, you kind of have that imposter syndrome, like, how did I get here? Should I be here? Am I good enough to be here? And usually the answer is yes, but it's just that internal struggle where and for me, I did take a sabbatical, so re-entering the workforce, I did have to deal with actually a lot of self-confidence issues, but I had some great male mentors, but I also got lucky and worked at some organizations that had a lot of female senior leaders, and they were my mentors. So I think that's a big thing that, working in corporate America, which I did for almost 20 years of my life before working at Newday, which is more of a startup, but I was fortunate to have those female leaders who mentored me. And if you look, McKinsey actually, it was KPMG, just came out with a study that showed only 10% of corporations have female mentorship programs, right? And so that needs to change. We need to be supportive of each other. We need to help the kids in college, do informational interviews, really anything. I feel like we need to start at home. We need to encourage women, young girls about finance. We need to help the college kids. I think it's 15% of companies now actively recruit women out of colleges for jobs in the financial industry. These are all positive steps to increase that gender parity, right, that we're hoping to find. But there's still a lot of work left, and it starts with us. It starts with us.
Any other comments before I open it up for questions?
My mentor, as far as being a great leader and learning outside of the education that I had from a clinical perspective, was a man. And he, like I said, he was the vice president of sales, along with everyone in that company who was an executive that I'd learned from were all men. And they brought in people for us to learn those skills from. I have to say that what I learned from the women executives I've worked with is by bad example. What I've learned a lot by bad examples, what not to do. And that's as good of my husband and I talk about this all the time, that is as good of a lesson as learning from a good example. So I see women who are afraid to speak their mind, who go along with the status quo, and who don't even act like they want a seat at the table because they don't believe they have a place there. You mentioned imposter syndrome. I had never heard of the term imposter syndrome till like 3 months ago. And when you were talking, what I was thinking of is I have been an imposter my entire professional life because I always seek out opportunities to improve. So if I was at the Consumer Attorneys of California convention last month. I went and sat with tables of attorneys to have conversations about what they were doing in California as far as personal injury, medical malpractice. If I go to a nursing leadership meeting, I go find the table where there's not only executives of a hospital, but executives of a division or of the big boy healthcare companies out there. Or if I'm at a meeting of an organization, I find the leaders of that meeting. So I feel like I've been an imposter, but it's a learning experience, and it's how I meet people, and it's how I make my own luck.
So I want to ask one more thing before I open up for questions. We'll take the claps. So what advice would you give a woman stepping into needing to shatter the glass ceiling?
Me first?
Judy first.
Okay. What advice would I give a woman? Would be the same advice I think I would give to a man. Everyone's hungry, but no one wants to see you starving. And I will explain what I mean. Everyone's looking for business, and everyone's looking for someone to help them, and everyone's looking to make more money and do all these things. But it's okay to know that, but it's not okay to actually be like so starving that you can't focus on anything else. Sometimes you have to kind of say, oh wow, like I met you today and I met you today. I don't know that we'll bring each other business, but maybe we will, maybe we won't, but we're making friends. There's more to do than just every person you see say, hey, can I do business with you? Can I do business with you? I would say women should try and set good goals for yourself and achieve them. If it's one new client a month, then it's one new client a month. If it's something else, it's something else. But set good goals for yourself, and don't be out there trying to, do everything in 1 week because you're not going to be able to do it.
Really quickly, there's two things that I would ask women to do, or that I actually tell women to do if I'm helping them. As you said, women will not apply for a job or complete a resume if they can't check every box. My recommendation to women who are filling out their resume is customize your resume to the job. If it has a qualification, you think of something in your life that you have done that met that qualification. I would never ask anybody to falsify their resume, but you can think of something that you've done that meets that. The second thing I would say is develop your presence. Always develop your presence, whether it's a St. John's suit and a good pair of shoes, develop your presence and carry yourself with confidence.
Or a new bag.
Or a new bag.
Or a new bag. What about you?
I would say don't take no for an answer. Just keep plugging along and always keep honing your skill and educate yourself, whether that's executive education or, LinkedIn has all these free courses and YouTube has so many other things you could do to just, keep up on things. Always keep learning. Never stop learning.
Absolutely. I love that too. I'll piggyback off Judy. I would say to set that goal, no matter how crazy, how big the vision, it's your vision. Nobody's going to fully understand it but you, but take that first step regardless of what anybody says. So I'm going to open the floor for questions. We got like a couple seconds.
Thank you. I'll talk in my outside voice.
Okay.
Thank you very much. That was not only inspiring, but I felt compelled to say, like you, this thing about an imposter syndrome, what's the difference? We know who we are. We know our power. If you believe there's a glass ceiling, then there's one. You know,
Absolutely.
Who was the philosopher that said, whether you believe you're right or wrong,
You're right.
It's Henry Ford. Henry Ford
right,
said it.
Okay, exactly. Could you say that again?
Okay, gosh, now you're okay. It's if you think you're right, you're right. But if you think you're wrong, you're right, or something like that.
You're right,
Yeah.
exactly. So I never even thought of a glass ceiling and never thought of imposter syndrome. I just did what I needed to do as a human being to fulfill myself. And I think that's really what everyone here, irrespective of gender, needs to be doing. And that's why we're at this conference. So
Thank
I just want
you.
to say thanks. There's no glass ceiling.
Well, we talked about that, actually. We said we had heard about the ceiling, and we just went around it. Because, why put the effort in shattering it when you can develop your own business?
Right, build your own glass ceiling, guys. But there is no glass ceiling. Sky's the limit.
We have another question.
Just glass
There
ceiling.
you go.
We have another question.
Or glass tennis shoes.
Thank you very much. I have a quick question. I have a rock star on my team, but she doesn't know she's a rock star yet. So she comes from a culture where she normally infers what she wants instead of asking what she wants. In those settings and what I do, you have to ask. So what are some of the best ways I can coach her or mentor her to be able to take up space professionally and ask for what she wants, but not make her feel like she's stepping out of herself?
Have you told her that? Have you told
That's
her
a good
she
question.
needs to do that?
Yes.
And she just still won't.
Yeah.
Okay. I know culturally sometimes there are.
I would say to give her a safe place to land, and I would say that whatever she wants to do, you can suggest, and you can give her your ideas, but that she feels comfortable being able to tell you whatever it is that she wants to do on that day, because I think because sometimes people don't feel that they have a safe place to land, it's why they get a little messed up. I think everybody, you have to make sure that she knows that this is what you would like to suggest or say or whatever, but that if she makes a different decision, it's okay. Don't make her think, I can't say what I really want because he won't like it.
What I've done relating to that is if you're invite her to meetings with you. And then if you know that she has had a good idea or done something as a rock star, and let her know you're going to do this ahead of time, but say, Susan, why don't you tell us your idea about this? And if you at least coach her ahead of time so she's prepared to do that or do it enough, so she feels, some people need permission to speak. And I don't say that in a demeaning manner, but she needs permission to speak. And if you, in the moment, give her that, why don't you tell us your good idea? Why don't you explain how you solved that problem? You did a great job at this, why don't you tell us about it? She'll start to feel more comfortable speaking up.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
I think on the backside of that, she's going to need a community of women as well. Okay. As she's starting to open her shell in a sense. So,
Thank you so much.
Just encourage that. Okay, thank you guys. That concludes our panel. Thank you.
Thank you guys very much.